3 months after that, on October 2nd, 2007, Microsoft developers compiled Build 6469 of Windows 7. This is a pre-Milestone 1 build, and it is actually the second earliest development build of Windows 7 known to exist. For the most part, it resembles the previous release of Windows, as most early development builds do. However, in the initial setup process, we can see that the copyright date has been changed to 2007, and the build string at the bottom of the screen is identifying itself as Windows codename Windows 7. Besides that, the setup process is identical to Vista. The logon screen even still displays the Windows Vista logo at the bottom, which can also be seen in WinFor. This particular build is based on the business SKU of Windows Vista. One major change we can see in WinVer is the NT version, which has been changed to 6.1, which would be Windows 7's NT version. Everything about the desktop screams Vista, except for a couple of notable changes. Probably the most visible modification is the slight design change to the taskbar, and just like in the setup process, the build string is displayed on the desktop in the bottom right. There's also a new How to Share Feedback icon on the desktop. When opened, an application with an embedded web page appears explaining how to share feedback and identify issues to be fixed in future builds. One of the other cool things we can do is enable a very early version of the superbar, the larger taskbar that would be introduced with Windows 7. This is done by adding a key to the Windows registry. Interestingly enough, all user account control prompts when opening Microsoft applications will now say WEX build account in place of Microsoft Windows. In the registry, we can go into HKey current user, software, Microsoft, Windows, current version, Explorer, and create a new key called taskband. Then add a new dword value named Ken has superbar and give it a value of 1. Once Explorer is restarted, the new taskbar will appear. While it's obviously not feature complete in this build, the concept is here, and it does actually make a few changes aside from just making the taskbar larger. The center of the taskbar is a lighter gray color, and the buttons will now group if you have two windows from the same application open. One feature that has been removed is the classic start menu, which can no longer be enabled in this build. There's also a hidden boot screen accessible by enabling No GUI boot. This boot screen was not included with the final release of Windows 7, so it's kinda cool to see here. 2 months later, Microsoft developers compiled Build 6519 of Windows 7. This is a Milestone 1 build and was the first to be released to Microsoft partners. Like the previous build I showcased, 6519 largely resembles Vista. However, one major change is with the boot screen. It now displays the setup background with a loading animation at the bottom. This boot screen would not be seen in the final release of Windows 7. The setup process is mostly identical to what we saw in the last build. However, this one is a multi-SKU build, meaning that we can select from a list of Windows editions to install. The EULA also identifies the OS as Microsoft Pre-Release Windows 7 Operating System, and the build string has been removed from the bottom right. Our first sign of change is on the login screen, where the image at the bottom now says Windows 7 as opposed to Windows Vista. This is also seen in WinVer. The build string is still seen on the desktop, however this time the Windows codename text has been removed. There have also been some changes made to the gadgets, as the sidebar has now been entirely removed. This is exactly how Windows 7 behaved. There's also a new gadget asking the user to rate their experience. When clicked, a form will pop out which could be used to submit feedback to the developers. The feedback icon on the desktop has been changed as well, and it opens up the same window that we saw on the gadget, although this time it's a dedicated window as opposed to a gadget pop-out. Additionally,